Ongoings, founder of Done Dissertation, where we demystify the dissertation process so that doctoral students can write and defend a dissertation in 1 year or less. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Done Dissertation Office Hours. And in today's conversation, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about 3 ways to ditch your desire to be perfect. It's that time of season. Folks are defending their dissertations. Folks are getting proposals defended. And this is the time where a lot of us who might be stuck in the process may start to have feelings of regret, feelings of doubt. And so really I want to talk about and disrupt this idea of us trying to get everything perfect. So if this is you, if you want something perfect, this is going to be the episode for you to tune into, because we're going to kind of disrupt all the ways that we've thought about perfection. I'm going to give you some new ways to think through and approach this. So what I want you to do, as always, if you can, wherever you're watching this, drop in the chat, in the comments, let me know where you're coming from. I would love to hear about where you are in your process if you're currently a doctoral student. And then also what you could do for me is share this with 2 or 3 people that you believe that can find value. Because again, we always want to be able to support our fellow colleagues who are going through this dissertation process as well. So again, I appreciate you all support. We're going to go ahead and share this out. I'm going to share this with a couple of groups. Shout out to the Done Dissertation group from ABD to PhD with Done Dissertation. If you haven't yet, make sure that you join our group at www.donedissertationgroup.com. So you can get into the community. Make sure you answer the 3 questions so that you can join our community. And we will have actually next week a live only in the group. So only folks who are members of the group will be able to have a Q&A session with me next week. So if you're not part of the group, make sure that you add the group ASAP so that you can be part of the community and you can join us next week for an exclusive from ABD to PhD with Done Dissertation group chat. So I want to make sure we tune in next week. And so again, I'm going to share this out 1 or 2 folks, and then we are going to go ahead and get started. I want to give the algorithm a little second to go ahead and find my people. Again, if you know someone who is in a doctoral phase who needs some help to get through this, make sure that you send this video their way or invite them to join the group. Make sure that they have access to this information. And again, if you're looking for support, you've been going through this process alone, make sure you join our group at www.donedissertationgroup.com. And again, today we're going to talk about 3 ways to ditch your desire to be perfect. It's just that season. I hear a lot of folks wanting to be perfect, and I'm going to kind of disrupt some of those ideas that you all have about perfection. And we're going to get down to the root cause of why you might be thinking things have to be perfect. Share this in one group, and then we're ready to go. All right, perfect. So what I want us to really get at is perfection. Perfection is like this one word that we all have to some degree, but I find that for folks who have been stuck in this process, they hold on to this idea to be perfect. And again, I want to blow that idea up tonight and give you some new ways to approach it. Shout out to Timothy Bryson, who was on Instagram. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. And I'm looking in the chat. Got my guy, LaMarcus. Appreciate you for tuning in, as always. And we got Ron Miller. He's a 3rd-year student taking comprehensive written exam. So thank you, Ron, for tuning in as well. So again, today we're going to talk about perfection. And I just have 3 ways in 3 ways that you need to think about perfection and ways that you can ditch your desire to be perfect. Because again, I think going through this process, we all want things to go well. We all want things to go according to plan, but that is actually not our goal. And so I want to give you 3 ways to think through this, to possibly think differently about how you've been approaching this. The first part, what I want us to consider, right, is this idea that you have to realize that trying to be perfect in your idea of perfectionism is actually a symptom. And what your goal is actually is to find the root cause that is, pushing you to want things to be perfect. And it's interesting, right? A lot of times our clients in the Velocity Group coaching program, and if any of them are on, just jump on any of the chats wherever you all are, if y'all are on right now, a lot of times our clients come to us with this idea that their document has to be perfect, everything's got to be tight, and that they've been stuck in this process for so long. And oftentimes when we have our blueprint call, we talk about possibly joining our program, they often mention like, I got to get this document perfect. I can't get past my chair because they want this thing perfect. And it's this ideas of perfection. However, what I've found from doing this work, from coaching number of clients, like literally to date, we have 27 folks who have been through the program, as well as over 100 that we've taught throughout our university partnership with other universities, right? So I have a lot of experience doing this. And what I've found is that because folks show up, right, the thing that shows up is perfection. But when we peel back the layer, there's actually something that's under that. And as a doc student, that's what you really got to start figuring out. What is the root cause of me wanting this document to be so perfect? And oftentimes that takes some work. And that is something that you really got to start thinking about, particularly if you are stuck in this process. And you really have to get at the root cause of your perfection. And here's what ends up happening. What I find from my own experience doing this with my clients is that a lot of times the root cause of perfection is because of these traumatic experiences that we've had in the doctoral program prior to writing the dissertation. If you've had one of these experiences where either you dealt with just some foolish racism, microaggressions in your classroom experience, you maybe have had a professor who didn't value your ideas because they challenged maybe their way of knowing and being, or you just been going through this writing process and folks have just been attacking your work. Particularly for my folks I know who are writing about critical race theory right now, depending on your state, who your professors are, you probably get challenged a lot on that. So there's all these experiences during your coursework. And even before that, some folks are still carrying on like some of the luggage and baggage from, grade school in terms of how teachers maybe thought about you as a student, maybe thought about your writing. So you had these ideas when people kind of packages as perfectionism and imposter syndrome, right? But really, we got to peel back the layers, and you experienced some trauma that has been untreated and unsupported, right? And really, you haven't had a chance to dig through that. And I am no different than you all. I definitely have my fair share of that. And I always tell this. So if you go to any of our workshops, you go to anything that Done Dissertation does, if I'm talking, I will always share this experience I had with my professor. And shout out to Dr. Shockley, because he's like been one of my biggest supporters. But I promise you, that first time I got my paper back from him in 2011, my first class as a doc student, and he literally wrote on my paper, he said, you need to see a writing coach in order to improve this immediately. And then on page 3 of my paper, he put a big X and just said, you know what, we're going to stop here. And I trust you, I was in my feelings because I thought my writing needed to be perfect. And what I was finding is that I was just imitating all of the other writers that I was reading their work, but I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the bandwidth. I just wasn't a scholar quite yet to really take that on. And because I was trying to imitate someone else, all it came off as across as trite and not well thought out. And this is probably what's happening to a lot of you all. I promise you, for those, if you're stuck on your lit review, I see this happen most on the lit review. If you're stuck on your lit review right now, it's because, one, you are not as confident in your reading yet because you may have read enough. And also, two, you're still lacking the confidence in your writing. But again, it shows up as perfection. But when we peel back the layer, we've had early traumas from, K through 12, maybe undergrad, graduate school, our doctoral program. All that stuff compounds. And when you get to the dissertation, because you don't have the support that you're used to in a classroom setting, it can be quite challenging to navigate the process. And so, again, this is something that you really got to start considering. So, again, the first aspect on one way to ditch being perfect is that you have to realize that perfectionism is merely a symptom. And your job is to find the root cause and the problem of it. For some clients, it's not about the trauma of the coursework. For some of you all, it might just be confidence in yourself. A lot of this dissertation stuff is really about how do you feel about yourself as a scholar, and do you feel confident enough that you can defend your ideas and that you can contribute in the way that your favorite author contributes to the body of knowledge. And I know for a lot of us, we see our favorite writers and we get starstruck, and we get sometimes it causes us to really become doubtful of our own ability. And so when you become like that, it's really hard to push forward. And then what happens is you say, oh, I'm not going to submit to my chair because I want my writing to be perfect. Oh, I don't want to move forward anymore because they want everything to be perfect. But really, it's the idea that you actually are just lacking the confidence. And literally, folks who work with us, they come in not as confident. And then by the time they leave our program in the Velocity Coaching Program, they are confident, they stand front on their ideas, and they are ready to take on the committee members or whoever else is involved in their process. You have to get to that point, but you have to first come to the realization that your desire to be perfect is actually a symptom and not the actual cause of everything. And I find for a lot of folks, once you start digging deep, like start asking yourself, well, why do I want things to be perfect? And once you keep asking that 4, 5, 6, layers back, you'll start to find out the root cause of why, you say, I got to have everything perfect, and why my committee won't approve my document. So that's one way that you have to think about and ditch your desire to be perfect. The second part that I want you to consider, the second way to ditch your desire to be perfect, is that I want you to start becoming more obsessed about your journey in your doctoral program than the actual final product. So again, I want you to become obsessed with the process and journey and not the final product. This goes against probably everything that you've been taught in your doctoral program is drilled in you, right? Finish your dissertation, finish your dissertation. But actually, what I want you to start becoming obsessed with, of course, dissertation is the goal, but it's a byproduct of your journey. And so if you become more obsessed about your journey, by just going through your journey, the dissertation will be done, you'll earn your doctorate. That's just a complete mindset shift in terms of how folks typically think about this process. And again, for my folks who are just joining, we'll talk about 3 ways to ditch your desire to be perfect. And for those who don't know, I'm Dr. Ramon Goings, founder of Done Dissertation. And if you need the support, you need the community, make sure that you join our from ABD to PhD dissertation support group. You can go to www.donedissertationgroup.com. Again, that's www.donedissertationgroup.com to get the support that you need. And so again, we've been talking about the first way. We talked about realizing your perfection is a symptom and not, and your goal is to find the root cause. But here, what we're talking about secondly is about how you have to become more obsessed about the journey and process than the final product. Again, and when we get folks that want to work with us, when they come on a blueprint call to learn more about our program, they often say, we ask them, well, why are you here today? Why are you looking at a dissertation coach? And they often say, I'm just tired. I'm just tired of writing this document. I've been writing this document for 10 years. I've been stuck in the process. My committee, I have some committee members who at this point passed away. I've had some committee members who just said like they're not working with me. I'm out of resources. I'm out of time. And literally we have folks who've been in their program 10 years. So it's not uncommon if you're at that point in this process. But if this is you, what I want you to take away from something I've learned coaching clients is that if you become obsessed about the journey, it's actually much faster to finish your dissertation. It sounds like like not intuitive, right? It seems like you should be focused on writing every day. You should be focused only on writing, only on doing the things that get the written product done. But there is an entire process that is happening, and this is something that you all got to start being mindful of at this point. There's a process happening, and I want you all to start really thinking about and being conscious about what is happening to you during this process. And look, at the end of the day, for many of you as doc students, right, everybody wants the prestige. We want the increase in salary. We want the increase in consulting payment. We want to be recognized as the expert. But what I want to ask you is, are you willing to do the work to become the new you that can, take on all those new opportunities? And honestly, I hadn't had this realization about the importance of the journey until I talked with on one of our office hour episodes where I interview doctoral students and folks who have gotten their doctorate. I had an interview with Greta Cobb, and she talked about her journey being in metaphysics, about the journey and what happens to you going through the dissertation process. So what I want to do real quick for my folks who are on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, you'll be able to see this video. For my Instagram folks, you're just gonna have to join our Facebook group. You can catch this on a replay. But I want to share a brief clip from my interview with Greta, with how she talks about how you have to transform yourself into the new you. So take a look at this clip real quick.
The dissertation for me, all that whole path, that whole journey up to the point of me deciding, yes, this is what I wanted. Once I said yes, and to any dissertation candidate, that is a whole life transformation experience. You're just not going to go to school and read these books and think you're just going to come out with a PhD. When I say transform, it will transform you. Now, for some, it will be just that. You will go to school, you will get your degree, and then you will go on and then you will do what you're supposed to do. I saw this was my life's work, my life calling. It started at the age of 8, and now here I am fulfilling what I want to do.
So what Greta was really getting at, right, is this idea that you really have to start focusing on the journey. Like if you go into this process, whether you're starting at your coursework, for my folks at the coursework phase, or if you are towards the end, if you go into this process and you're the same person going in that you are coming out, you did something wrong with this journey. For certain. You definitely, and I didn't get this, like, again, until I had this conversation with Greta, and this is the episode. Definitely check out our YouTube channel so you can watch the whole episode. But I didn't have that realization until I had that conversation with her. So it's even something I knew I transformed. I knew I had a transformation, but I couldn't put the words around it until I had this conversation with Greta and we talked through this. And so this is something that you really got to consider. Who is the new you that has to happen in order for you to finish this process? Because I think a lot of folks are being stuck and want to be perfect because they want to keep the old them. So at this point, you want to adopt who is the new you in this journey. So if you become hyper focused and obsessed with the journey, again, earning your doctorate is just a byproduct of that. And so again, this is something I really want you all to start thinking about, because again, you all want the prestige, we want the money, we want the impact in our communities by doing this research, but are you ready to be the new person that can do all that work? And again, this process is helping you to do that. And I promise you, if you become obsessed on the journey, you'll forget about wanting to be perfect, because you know that that's just never your goal. And so with that helps you transition to my third way that you can start thinking about ditching your desire to be perfect, is this idea that I want you all to realize, and if you haven't yet, you got to realize this, that your goal in the dissertation process is to be done, is not to be perfect. Those are two different goals, and your goal here is to be done. Because if you try to be perfect, you will fine tune your dissertation. You will fine tune for months, not submit it to your chair. And this is what's going to happen. You're going to say, yes, I got it perfect. Dotted my I's, cross my T's, submit it to your chair. And the first thing they're going to say is like, oh, this is not going to work. The ideas here are not well developed. And now you're going to be mad because you're like, shoot, I spent all this time trying to focus on my dissertation to get it perfect, only to have my professor just tear it down. And I promise you, this is how this process goes. So again, your job is to be done. But here's what the requirement is to be done. You have to put your ego aside and realize that your work won't be perfect, and that your goal is to get it as high quality as you can, and let your chair and committee push you the rest of the way. And what that requires is you to lean on them and actually trust their expertise. Because sometimes what I find interesting is that there are a number of doc students who go into this process thinking that they know more than the professor. And that's fine on the content, right? But when you get to this process, you haven't been through the process. So if you haven't been through this process, you're going through uncharted territory. So it's hard for you to really relate. So they're trying to guide you in a way that you might not even be thinking about. And so really, I want you all to really be mindful of this as you navigate the process. This is why your goal is to be done, not your goal. Your goal is not to be perfect. And I promise you, and if you're one of those students who, come to talk to us and say you want help, and then you come to us saying you have all the answers, we'll kindly say, well, this program is not a good fit for you. Because we only want students who are open to getting feedback and open to being, helping us push you along the journey and ride with you on the side as you're driving, right? Because again, we're not doing anybody's work. I'm a busy researcher. I love being a professor. I'm not going to do anybody's writing for them. My staff and coaches, nobody's doing your writing for you, right? That's on you. But we're going to help you, guide you through the potholes and things that are along that journey to make sure that you don't get caught up. But one of these is your mindset. And that's why this episode today is devoted just to your mindset around perfection, because we have to break that apart, because otherwise you're going to get stuck in this cycle of perfectionism. And then what happens from there is then procrastination seeps in. Whereas you want things to be perfect, and because you can't get them perfect, you don't submit. And then you say, oh, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till next week to do that. And then next thing you know, everything else takes precedent over the dissertation. And then next thing you know, you turn up, you look up, and oh my gosh, it was a year or two. And even for clients that work with us, on average, folks have been stuck at the dissertation process that come to work with us on an average of 3 years. So you could imagine being 3 years stuck in this one part of the process where you spent thousands and thousands of dollars for nothing to show for it. But it all starts with our mindset. Like, in order for you to get through this process, your mind has to be right, because the dissertation is as much a thinking process. And I would actually say I would argue that it's actually more of a thinking process than it is the actual writing process. So if you have clear thoughts and you're willing to put those down on paper and really get feedback and move the things forward, you'll realize that you'll get this process done, versus you getting caught up with things being perfect, and you'll just spend years and years in your dissertation, no degree to show for it. You'll be very frustrated. You spent too much money, wasted too much time, and you took everything away from family and friends. So these are the things that I really want you all to think about. And much respect to the folks tuning in. I'm on Facebook. Thank you to Dr. Bennett. Says, put the work in. And she also says, turn in that paper. Yeah, that's the first thing. If you're a perfectionist, you got to turn it in. You got to get feedback. You got to move forward in this process. And so thanks to my guy, Phil Salmon. Appreciate you, Phil. It's good to see you, man. Yeah, Phil's from folks from high school, man. So that's good stuff. So quick thing. So what I want you all to start thinking about, just do a quick recap of what we discussed. The 3 ways to ditch your desire to be perfect. First, you have to realize that your perfectionism is only a symptom. Your job is to actually find the root cause. Oftentimes, it's going to center around your confidence, your ability, your trauma that you had with writing, maybe your trauma you had in the program dealing with racism, sexism, and everything else in your program. Once you get to the peel back the layers, and sometimes it's not something that you could do alone. Like, definitely get the support of a mental health professional to do this work. So this doesn't have to always be on you to figure all these things out. So this is, again, something that you really want to consider at this point. So that's the first part. The second is that if you want to ditch your desire to be perfect, you have to become so obsessed about your journey in the process rather than the final product. I know you're in these doc programs, you want these letters because you want the prestige, you want the salary. I mean, I get it. I'm trying to make money too. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But are you willing to do the transformative work and change who you are as a person on the inside to make that happen? And that's just a question I pose to you to really think about, because if you go into your dissertation process the same as when you entered versus when you exit, you've done something completely wrong. So I really want you to think about who you were when you started the program and who you are now as you're getting closer and closer to the finish line. And I promise you, those are 2 different folks. And we got some people who have gone through this process that are on the live right now. Like, if you're on Facebook, Dr. Bennett has gone through this process. I was on her committee. She could talk about her transformation, being a school leader, starting the process, and who she is now as a researcher, now looking to, work with doctorals, work with graduate students, really give them the support that they need to get through this journey. You come out different. And again, as Greta said on the video, if you go in this trying to be the same, you have done something absolutely wrong. And then lastly, your goal with the dissertation process is to get it done versus for it to be perfect. Those are 2 different goals. And done just means you focus on the journey. You focus on doing the milestones each and every step of the process. That's what you become hyper focused on, because if you do all these steps, the final piece will come. But if you try to get perfect, you're just going to spend a lot of time and get very frustrated, because you're going to find out that your faculty will never think it's perfect. Even when you have finished the process, they always find something. So just let that go. That's one thing. You just got to let that go. I'm a faculty member. I'm just telling you the inside scoop from a faculty member. They're going to find something. We all are like journal reviewers. They always find something. Nothing's perfect. And so this is something that matters. And what Dr. Bennett says is that the journey matters. Transformation is key. And it's just so important for you all to really think about getting through this process. But if you're a doc student and you find that, you're trying to work through this, but you literally don't know what the process is, or you don't have a guide to really help you navigate the journey, and you've been spending a lot of time stuck, what I want you to do is definitely get the support that you need. And with us at the Done Dissertation, we can definitely provide that support for you. And what I would invite you to do, if you're someone who needs that support, is what I want you to do first is join our free dissertation support community. First, I want you to get in a community with like-minded individuals to go ahead and get the support that you need to get through this process. So if you're interested in that, go to www.donedissertationgroup.com. It'll forward you to the Facebook group to join. Just make sure you answer the 3 questions so that you can get the support that you need and get into the group, right? And if you join now, next week we'll do a live only in the group, so you won't see me on Instagram or anywhere else. We'll just be in the group next week doing a live Q&A with just folks in the group. And the group is pretty intimate right now, so make sure you join so you can get that kind of individualized support. So definitely make sure that you join. And then if you are someone who, needs some help and trying to figure out to navigate, want to learn how to navigate the various mistakes that doc students make, I want to invite you to grab our free dissertation mistake guide. I've come up with the top 10 mistakes that doctoral students make that ensure they won't finish the dissertation process or secure their faculty position. And so if you want that, you can go and visit www.dissertationmistake.com. And thanks, Carrie, for on Instagram. I'm going to pin your comment for the group. So you have 2 ways we can provide support for you right now. First is definitely get involved in our group, which is at our from ABD to PhD with Done Dissertation. If you search for it in your search bar, you'll find it. But if you want to go directly to it, just go to www.donedissertationgroup.com, answer the 3 questions, and join our group. And then for my other folks who just need, really some more support, some guidance, make sure that you grab our 10 dissertation mistakes guide. And you can grab that from visiting www.velocitydissertation.com. And so with that, I want to open up for some questions. I got, let's see, about like 5 or 10 minutes or so. So make sure that you join. If you have any questions, let me know what you got. And thanks, Carrie, for http dundersationgroup.com. So if you have any questions about the dissertation, please let me know. I want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in. We had LaMarcus, we had Ron, Dr. Bennett, Phil, Carrie. Appreciate you all as always for jumping on. Shout out to Ms. Greta Cobb. So make sure that you all tune into that episode on our YouTube channel. If you type in Done Dissertation on YouTube, you can find we got a whole bunch of content. You have replays of these lives as well as other things to get you some support that you need at various stages in the process. Again, make sure that you join at www.donedissertationgroup.com. Again, I'll leave it open for another minute or two. If there are any questions, let me know. And for my folks that are in the group, from ABD to PhD group, drop your questions in the comments, and I'm going to jump on the group after, and I'll respond if you have any questions about anything that we talked about. Because again, we want to provide some support for you all in the group and get you in the right community. Because when you have the right community, this process becomes so much more manageable because you have other people who are going through the process, but then other people who are like-minded, who are willing to say that they're going to peel back the layers and find out the root cause of their perfectionism. Folks who are going to become obsessed with the process and journey rather than the final product. And then you're going to have folks who are focused on getting your dissertation done versus it being perfect. That is the community that you need. And so make sure that you join our group. Again, it's www.donedissertationgroup.com. And I'm just looking to see if there are any questions before I hop off for the evening. And again, if you find value from this, make sure that you share this with a friend or two of yours that need support. And make sure that you recommend them, send them to our Facebook group so they can get the support that they need. There's no need to go through this process alone. And we want to make sure that folks do not do that. You all are wasting too much time and too much money to go out this alone and not have a degree to show for it. So if that's you, make sure you join our group so you can get the support that you need to get done. And I'm just checking online because sometimes I can't see all of the comments. So I'm just checking real quick. I don't see anything right at this moment. Perfect. And thanks, Carrie. You also can grab your guide, 10 dissertation mistakes doctoral students make guide, and you can get the link. You'll see it in the comments on the various posts as well, wherever you're seeing this. And again, if you need the support, make sure that you don't go at this alone. I look forward to talking with you all next week, but it's only going to be for people who are in the Facebook group from ABD to PhD. So if you're not in the group, next week you won't see me online. It will only be in the group. So make sure that you go to the group, donedissertationgroup.com, and I look forward to seeing you all next week in the group. All right, everybody, have a good evening. Peace.